Today's case is about the mysterious disappearance of an 8-year-old girl, which became the most famous sexual assault and murder case. This 8-year-old girl went missing for 20 days without any clues. To find this girl, the Singapore police force, local people, volunteers, the Singapore government, and big companies all helped. But the girl was not found. Finally, when she was found, and it was revealed what had happened to the 8-year-old girl, the entire Singapore was shocked. Ngana was an 8-year-old girl who lived with her parents in a small town called Pasir Panjang. Although Ngana was born in China, she moved to Singapore with her parents in 1996. After moving to Singapore, her parents got divorced, and she started living alone with her mother. Sometime later, Ngana's mother remarried a local businessman. Ngana's mother started working at the Pasir Panjang Wholesale Center, where Ngana befriended a vegetable packer named Tuk Lang. Tuk Lang had his own family and used to bring toys and chocolates for Ngana. Everyone thought he was a very good man, but this friendship was soon going to cost Ngana dearly. Ngana used to go to her school. Friends and teachers describe her as a wise, cheerful, and pure-hearted girl who quickly makes friends. However, this very quality of hers would later create problems. On October 10, 2004, Ngana suddenly disappeared. For the next 20 days, there was no trace of her. Ngana was last seen near the wholesale center where her mother worked. She often visited after school, playing in the food court until her mother's shift ended. There was no clue related to Ngana's disappearance. She vanished mysteriously. It was bizarre. How could a little girl disappear in broad daylight in a busy wholesale market with no one noticing anything? Her mother filed a police complaint, and immediately, a crime investigation team was assigned to search for Ngana. CCTV footage from the area was checked, and her photo was shown to everyone in the area. Friends and relatives were questioned, but it seemed as though the wind had taken Ngana with it. She was gone without a trace. Days passed, and still there was no clue about the little girl. Everyone was anxious about her whereabouts, wondering what condition she could be in. Despite all the police efforts, there was no indication of where Ngana had gone or who might have taken her. For 3 weeks straight, from 7 a.m. to midnight, her parents, relatives, friends, and the police searched for Ngana, but no clue emerged. While the police investigation continued, the media picked up the story. Ngana's news went viral, and many people came forward to volunteer in the search efforts. Local residents formed search parties, combing the entire area daily. The police and volunteers distributed 700 pamphlets throughout the area. But still, no trace of Ngana was found. Even 2 prominent businessmen from Singapore announced a reward of $10,000 for anyone who could provide information about Ngana. Yet, despite all efforts, Ngana remained missing. The police extended their search for the missing girl all the way to Malaysia, but they returned empty-handed. A local taxi company even put up Ngana's posters on all their vehicles, and a dedicated website was launched to help locate her. Despite all these efforts, there was still no trace of her, and no new information surfaced. By this point, the case had become highly famous across Singapore, putting immense pressure on the police, both from the media and the public. Senior police officers were now leading the investigation, and even the Singapore government was closely following the case. There was significant pressure on the police to find the girl as quickly as possible. During the investigation, Ngana's mother revealed that Ngana was good friends with a man named Tuk Lang. Interestingly, the last place Ngana was seen was only 20 minutes away from Tuk Lang's workplace. On October 19, 2004, the police questioned Tuk Lang for the first time. Throughout the questioning, Tuk Lang remained quiet and appeared very nervous. He didn't say much, but his body language made the police suspicious. They allowed him to leave that day, but called him back for further questioning the next day. On October 20, 2004, when Tuk Lang was summoned for questioning again, he spun a false story. He told the police that 3 Chinese men were involved, but his account seemed inconsistent, raising further doubts about his involvement. The police found Tuk Lang's story about Wang Na being kidnapped completely fake. Sensing this, they decided to take him to court for a polygraph test. to determine if he was lying. Just hearing about the test made Tuc Lang incredibly nervous. On the way to court, they stopped at a restaurant for a meal, and in a moment of carelessness, or perhaps due to Tuc Lang's cleverness, he seized the opportunity and escaped through a window. As soon as Tuc Lang fled, the police were convinced he was hiding something serious. He became the prime suspect in the investigation. Tuc Lang took a taxi to Woodland and crossed the causeway into Malaysia. The police declared him a wanted criminal. Ngana's case had become so viral that every news channel was broadcasting Tuc Lang's photos. For the next 10 days, almost 20 police teams searched for him. Finally, on October 30th, he turned himself in at the police station. The reason for his surrender: for 10 days, while in hiding, he kept seeing his face on the news and became so overwhelmed with pressure and fear that he decided surrendering was his only option. When he finally surrendered, Tuc Lang confessed to murdering Ngana. The police had him recreate the entire murder scene, which would later be used as evidence in court. With his confession, the people of Singapore were heartbroken, as many had hoped that Ngana would be found alive. Even after the confession, some held on to the slim chance that he was lying, that maybe Ngana would still be found. But on October 31st, 2004, their hopes were crushed. Ngana's dead body was discovered in a hill park. This tragic news left the people of Singapore deeply saddened. Volunteers, relatives, friends, and her devastated parents. Imagine the heartbreak of a mother who held on to hope that her missing daughter would be found alive, only to discover her lifeless body. The entire community, who had tirelessly searched for Ngana, was shattered. They organized candlelight marches and church prayers, united by one burning question: why? Why would a man, seen as the girl's best friend, take the life of an innocent 8-year-old? Tuc Lang initially told the police that he accidentally strangled Ngana while playing hide-and-seek, fabricating a story about 3 Chinese kidnappers. But doubts arose. How could someone accidentally strangle a child during a game? The police began investigating the case as a sexual assault and murder. According to the public prosecutor and police, Ngana's body bore numerous injuries. They believed Tuc Lang took her to a storeroom, attempted to assault her, and when she resisted, he inflicted severe head injuries. Fearing capture, he strangled her, disposed of her body in 9 plastic bags, and buried her in a public park. The shocking part is that a man could kidnap, murder, and bury a child's body in broad daylight without anyone noticing. This revealed Tuc Lang as a cunning, cold-blooded killer. When Ngana's body was found, it was so decomposed that an autopsy couldn't be performed, making it impossible to prove the sexual assault charges in court. Yet, the community's quest for justice continued. Despite the challenges, the community remained united, seeking justice for Ngana. This tragic story serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a friendly facade. During the court hearings, Tuc Lang's lawyers attempted to prove him mentally unstable. However, after being examined by psychologists, he was declared mentally stable. The High Court also ruled him as mentally stable and labeled him a cold-blooded killer. Tuc Lang was sentenced to death by the High Court. His lawyers challenged this sentence in the Supreme Court, but again the Supreme Court upheld the death sentence. Tuc Lang's family, with the help of their lawyers, filed a mercy petition to the President of Singapore. The petition gathered 3,500 signatures, but many people also campaigned for its rejection. This case garnered global attention, with people all over the world following it closely. In October 2006, the President of Singapore rejected the mercy petition, finalizing Tuc Lang's death penalty. There was no longer any hope of saving him from execution. When Tuc Lang's family broke the news of the rejected petition to him in prison the next day, he was in complete shock. For the following days, he isolated himself in his cell and refused to eat. Tuc Lang was now just waiting for his execution. Meanwhile, thousands of people attended Ngana's funeral. Prominent businessmen and celebrities from Singapore were part of the ceremony. and people from around the world sent prayers and flowers in her memory. The Singapore funeral service covered all the funeral expenses and even promised to build a memorial for her. In her school, many people gave gifts and donations in her name. Several schools held 2 minutes of silence to honor her memory. Ghana was a happy...
On the date of September 21st, in Bengaluru's Vialikaval area, there is a colony where several people reside in a 3-story building as tenants. People passing by this building began to notice a strange, foul odor around 10 a.m. that morning, as the neighbors grew increasingly concerned about the smell. They reported the issue to the building's landlord, Jaya Ram. Upon hearing this, Jaya Ram decided to investigate the matter. The smell was coming from a room on the 3rd floor. When Jaya Ram reached the door, he noticed it was locked, but the stench was so strong that he had to cover his nose with a handkerchief. After coming downstairs, he informed the neighbors that the room belonged to a woman named Mahalakshmi, and the door was locked. The unusual nature of the smell made Jayaram suspicious of something terrible having happened. He immediately called Mahalakshmi on her mobile, but the phone was switched off. Worried, Jayaram searched his records and found an alternative contact number, which belonged to Mahalakshmi's mother. He remembered that Mahalakshmi's mother, Meena Rana, had the second key to the room and would visit her daughter once or twice a month. Jayaram called Meena and informed her about the foul odor coming from Mahalakshmi's room, the locked door, and the fact that her phone was unreachable. He urged her to come quickly and check the situation. In a short while, Meena Rana arrived at the building with her younger daughter, Lakshmi. As they approached the door to unlock it, 2 male neighbors also joined them, along with the landlord. As soon as Meena unlocked and opened the door, a powerful wave of foul-smelling gas rushed out, forcing everyone, including the landlord and neighbors, to step back about 10 feet. Meena, too, covered her face with a handkerchief as they prepared to enter the room. As they entered the room, the scene before them was absolutely terrifying. Flies were buzzing all around the house, and there were insects crawling on the floor, making their way toward a single-door refrigerator. To add to their horror, they noticed a dried trail of blood leading to the fridge. Their hearts filled with dread, but summoning all their courage, they opened the fridge. What they saw inside shocked them beyond belief. There were dismembered body parts stored inside. Meena Rana, horrified by the sight, screamed and ran outside, completely disturbed. Hearing her screams, neighbors and onlookers began gathering around the house. The landlord, along with some neighbors, braved the overpowering stench by covering their noses with handkerchiefs and re-entered the room. What they saw left them completely shaken, and they immediately informed the police. But who is Mahalakshmi? And why did such a horrific incident occur? Who could be behind such a heinous and painful crime? What could have driven someone to commit such a gruesome act? Let's delve deeper into this horrifying case and uncover the full story. This tale begins exactly 35 years ago in the neighboring country of Nepal, in a village called Tikapati. A man named Charan Singh found a good job in a factory there. Sometime later, Meena Rana gave birth to 2 daughters. The elder daughter was named Mahalakshmi, and the younger one was named Lakshmi. Both girls received a good education in Bengaluru. As time passed, they grew up, and soon the year 2019 arrived. By then, Mahalakshmi, the elder daughter, had reached the age of 25 and was ready for marriage. Her marriage was arranged with a man named Hemant, who lived in the Nelamangala area of Bengaluru. Hemant worked at a clothing store. After the marriage, everything was going smoothly. However, just 11 months later, Hemant and Mahalakshmi began having frequent arguments, all stemming from suspicion. Frustrated, Mahalakshmi decided to separate from Hemant and live on her own. During this time, she gave birth to a daughter. Although the situation worsened, by the time her daughter turned 3, Mahalakshmi handed the child over to Hemant and separated from him completely. She moved to a 3-story building in the Vyalikaval area of Bengaluru, where she started living alone. Occasionally, her mother, Meena Rana, would visit her. Mahalakshmi had given a spare key to her mother for emergencies. Sometime later, Mahalakshmi became acquainted with a 30-year-old man named Ashraf, who was a barber by profession. During this period, Ashraf helped Mahalakshmi find work, which eventually led her to secure a job as a saleswoman at a mall. Things seemed to be getting better for Mahalakshmi. She would visit her daughter and Hemant once a week. The date arrives, September 3rd, 2024. This was the last time Mahalakshmi was seen in the colony. After this, no one saw her again. Then, on September 21st, the foul odor from the 3-story building where Mahalakshmi lived began to trouble the residents in the area. What happened next is what you've already read above. Following these events, the police arrived at the scene fully prepared to begin their investigation. The body parts, found in the refrigerator, were sent to a lab, where it was confirmed that they belonged to Mahalakshmi. The police now understood that this was not a case of theft or robbery, but something far more sinister. Many questions arose. What led to this gruesome act? Who could have committed such a brutal crime? One notable clue was that Mahalakshmi's mobile phone was not found at the scene. Additionally, there was a new suitcase near the fridge, which led the police to believe that the perpetrator may have planned to dispose of the body parts, but failed. The investigation then focused on Mahalakshmi's background, starting with questioning her mother, Meena Rana, and the neighbors. The police quickly gathered basic information about Mahalakshmi, which also led them to learn about Ashraf and her husband, Hemant. On the basis of suspicion, the police took both Ashraf and Hemant into custody for questioning. However, nothing substantial came from either of them that could provide a strong lead in the case. Despite this, Hemant remained on the police radar since they knew that he and Mahalakshmi had a troubled relationship, which had led to her living separately. When the police checked Hemant's call records, they found his story to be truthful. The police then turned their attention to the CCTV footage from the area, and that's when they stumbled upon something that flipped the entire case. The footage from September 2nd and 3 showed an unidentified man entering and leaving the 3-story building where Mahalakshmi lived. The focus of suspicion, which had initially been on Ashraf and Hemant, now shifted to this third unknown individual. The police had to find out who this third person was. They traced the call detail record, CDR, of Mahalakshmi's phone and discovered that she had been in frequent contact with a number belonging to a man named Mukti Ranjan Roy. The police then started gathering more information about Mukti Ranjan. They found out that Mukti, a 32-year-old junior manager, worked at the same mall where Mahalakshmi had been employed as a saleswoman. Further investigation revealed that Mukti Ranjan hadn't shown up for work in quite some time, which deepened the police's suspicion. Additionally, it was confirmed that the unknown person captured on CCTV was none other than Mukti Ranjan himself. Understanding the gravity of the situation, the police intensified their investigation and began tracking Mukti Ranjan's location using his SIM card. They found out that he was in Mumbai. As they checked his call records further, they discovered another number with which Mukti had been in regular contact. This number, also traced to Mumbai, belonged to a person named Smriti Ranjan Roy. The police, now growing increasingly suspicious, called Smriti Ranjan, pretending to be someone else in order to pinpoint their exact location. Once they had the precise location, The police tracked down Smriti Ranjan and discovered that he was none other than Mukti Ranjan's younger brother. During the interrogation, Smriti Ranjan made several shocking revelations, leading the police to confirm that Mukti Ranjan was indeed Mahalakshmi's murderer. It was also revealed that Mukti had mentioned going to his village to see his mother and had been struggling with severe depression. The police, along with Smriti Ranjan, headed toward Mukti's village in Odisha on September 24th. On the morning of September 25th, when the police arrived around 11 a.m., they discovered that Mukti Ranjan had already ended his life by hanging himself from a tree in his village. The suspect, for whom the police had been tirelessly searching, was now gone. However, at the scene, the police found a scooter and a diary inside it. In the diary, Mukti had detailed the reasons why he killed Mahalakshmi, and it was learned that he had also confessed the crime to his mother upon reaching the village. From the information gathered from Smriti Ranjan, Mukti's mother, and the diary, the full picture of the crime began to emerge. Despite Mahalakshmi having several friends, Mukti Ranjan Roy, who worked with her, was deeply in love with her. He was committed and possessive of her, but the relationship took a dark and painful turn one day when Mukti accidentally saw Mahalakshmi's phone. On her phone, he found pictures of her with other people, which sent Mukti into a frenzy. This led to a confrontation between the two, creating a rift in their relationship. Mukti Ranjan wanted to marry Mahalakshmi and had been trying to convince her, but she kept avoiding the subject. On the night of September 3rd, the night of the murder, the two had a fight that started because of these very issues. Mukti was at Mahalakshmi's home, trying to persuade her to marry him, but she kept refusing. The argument escalated, and soon it involved money and other matters. Their fight turned violent, and in a fit of anger, Mahalakshmi attacked Mukti. But Mukti, who was physically stronger, retaliated, and Mahalakshmi didn't have a chance to defend herself. In his rage, Mukti strangled her, and Mahalakshmi died from suffocation. Realizing what he had done, Mukti began to think about how to dispose of Mahalakshmi's body, but carrying her large body down from the 3rd floor without being noticed by the residents of the busy colony seemed impossible. Sitting there for hours, he came up with a horrifying idea that crossed all boundaries of humanity. He decided to dismember Mahalakshmi's body into smaller pieces and pack them into a trolley bag. On September 4th, Mukti Ranjan was captured on CCTV, leaving his house and later returning with a trolley bag and a large sharp knife. He locked the room from the inside and began executing his horrifying plan. Ruthlessly, he started dismembering the body, but at some point, his hands began to tremble, and he lost his courage to continue. His plan to dispose of the body was abandoned, and instead he stuffed the body parts into the small single-door fridge in the room. He meticulously cleaned up the blood scattered on the floor and, seeing the right moment, locked the door and left the scene. Mukti Ranjan switched off his mobile phone to avoid being tracked. As the terrible smell began to spread throughout the building, the residents became alarmed, which led to the series of events that followed, as you already know. So, friends, this was the complete story of this gruesome crime. Stay connected for more crime updates and cases like this.
On the 2nd of March 2020, a 25-year-old woman named Uthra was sleeping in her home. While she was asleep, she felt something near her feet. She woke up and saw a snake. She tried to move it away with her feet, but in that moment, the snake bit her on her left leg. She was immediately hospitalized. The snake that bit her was a breed known as the Russell's viper, a highly venomous species. If this snake bites someone, the chances of survival are very low. However, luckily, after 3 surgeries, Uthra survived, but she had to stay in the hospital for 2 months. On the 6th of May 2020, Uthra was discharged from the hospital. The doctor advised her to rest for a few more days, so Uthra went to her parents' house to recover. Her husband, Suraj, was also with her, taking care of her. That day, Uthra had dinner with everyone and then went to sleep. The next day, Uthra usually woke up before 7 o'clock, but by 9 a.m., she still hadn't woken up. This worried her mother, who went to Uthra's room to wake her. When she entered, she saw Uthra lying in an unusual position. Uthra's body had turned blue. When her mother got closer to her, she found that Uthra's body was ice cold. She tried to wake her up, but Uthra didn't respond. Her mother was terrified. She called her husband and his father, and they immediately rushed Uthra to the hospital. Upon reaching the hospital, the doctors informed them that Uthra was no longer alive. The doctors had also noticed a snake bite mark on Uthra's left hand. It became clear to everyone that Uthra's death was caused by a snake bite, because in the same room where she had been sleeping, a snake was found. This snake was killed by Uthra's maid and buried in their garden. Uthra's body was sent for a post-mortem. However, what shocked everyone was that just 2 months earlier, Uthra had been bitten by a snake, and now, 2 months later, another snake bite had taken her life. This was hard for people to digest. Rumors spread and many stories emerged, with some even claiming that Uthra was cursed with Nag-Dosh, linking it to mythological stories about serpents. The tale spread across the town like wildfire, but the next day, when the post-mortem report came out, it revealed that Uthra's death was caused by neurotoxins, which are found in a species called the spectacled cobra. Along with this, another point emerged, which became the turning point of the entire case. This point shifted the narrative from a natural death to a murder, because before Uthra's death, she had been given sleeping pills. This single piece of evidence forced the police to investigate further. What really happened that night with Uthra? That's what we are going to discuss in today's video. So hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, we're going to dive into the mysterious murder case of Uthra. The story of Uthra begins in a place called Anchal, located in the Kollam district of Kerala. Here, a 25-year-old woman named Uthra lived with her parents. Uthra belonged to a well-known and respected family. Her father was a businessman, and her mother was a retired school principal, making their family financially well-established. As Uthra was growing older, her parents decided it was time for her to get married. In March 2018, they arranged her marriage to a man named Suraj. Suraj was aware that Uthra had a learning disability, and because of this, he demanded a hefty dowry from her parents. The dowry included a car, $1,000, 750 grams of gold, and $2,000 per month for Uthra's care. Her parents provided all of this. Uthra spent a year with Suraj, and after 1 year, they had a child together. They seemed happy and were raising their child well. But sadly, on the 6th of May 2020, Uthra passed away. The post-mortem report confirmed that her death was caused by a snake bite. However, another detail emerged, though it was found that Uthra had consumed sleeping pills before her death, or someone had given them to her. This piece of information pointed the case in a different direction. Uthra's father filed a police complaint, and fortunately the Deputy Superintendent of Police, DSP, Ashok, was a close friend of Uthra's father. Due to this connection, the investigation into the case began immediately. The police had two major questions. First, did the snake bite Euthra naturally, or did someone force the snake to bite her? And second, how did the snake enter Euthra's room? The police began their investigation by visiting Euthra's house. Upon inspection, they found that on the day Euthra was bitten, she'd been sleeping on the first floor of her house. There was no possible entry point for the snake, as it was an air-conditioned room, and there were no trees near the windows through which a snake could have entered. This led the police to confirm that someone had intentionally brought the snake into Euthra's room. The question that lingered in everyone's mind was, who brought the snake into the room? With this question in mind, the police started questioning Euthra's family. It was revealed that when Euthra was bitten by a snake the first time, her husband, Suraj, was with her. And when she was bitten the second time, Suraj was also present. This made the police suspect that Suraj might know something about the case. The police directly confronted Suraj, but he didn't reveal anything. However, when the police checked Suraj's mobile and computers, they discovered that in the past few days, Suraj had been researching venomous snakes. This revealed a unique pattern to the police. Before Euthra was bitten by a Russell's viper, Suraj had been researching that exact species of snake. Before Euthra was bitten by the spectacled cobra, Suraj had been researching that exact species of snake. This led the police to suspect that Suraj was involved in the case. When they checked his contacts, they found the number of a snake handler. The police tracked down the handler, who turned out to be a man named Suresh Kumar. Upon questioning Suresh, the police learned that Suraj had bought a Russell's Viper from him for $100, and a few days later, purchased a spectacled Cobra for $150. This made it clear that Suraj was behind the plot. However, the police didn't have enough strong evidence to present in court, so they decided to continue their investigation. One question remained. How did Suraj bring the snake into the room? He couldn't have carried it with his bare hands. It must have been transported in a box or bag. The police started searching around Euthra's house and found a box hidden among a pile of wood. The box had small holes in it, suggesting it had been used to transport the snake. The police sent the box to the forensic lab for testing, and it was confirmed that a snake had indeed been kept inside. Fingerprints were found on the box, and when matched with Suraj's fingerprints, they were a perfect match. This evidence was enough for the police. They collected all the necessary proof and presented Suraj in court. In court, Suraj was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment, along with a fine of $10,000. Suraj is still in jail. But the real question was, why did Suraj murder his own wife? In an interview, Suraj admitted that he had only married Euthra for the dowry. A few days after the marriage, he grew bored of her and wanted to divorce her. However, if Suraj had divorced Euthra, half of his property would have legally gone to her, which Suraj didn't want. He also knew that Euthra's parents had taken out a life insurance policy for her, with a large amount of money involved. Suraj wanted Euthra to die in a way that appeared natural, which is why he orchestrated the entire plan to kill her. It's frightening to think how low people can go for money. People like Suraj are still around us, so be cautious. And with that, this case comes to an end. If you liked this video, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to comment.
On February 16, 1995, an 8-year-old girl named Pooja disappeared from Kolkata Nagar. She had been standing outside her house with her family, watching a wedding procession pass by at around 7:30 p.m. As is common in our country, people come out of their homes or stand on their balconies to watch wedding processions. Children often danced to the music. Pooja was doing the same. However, after the wedding procession left, she vanished. No one could find her, and considering the chaos of the wedding crowd, Satish Kumar had kidnapped her. He took the helpless 8-year-old girl to a field, where he raped her and then strangled her. Imagine the plight of a child who had no idea what was happening to her. On February 25th, Pooja's lifeless body was found in a hut in the same field. Her father worked in the Union Home Ministry, which put immense pressure on the police to find the murderer. They arrested a man named Rajkumar, who allegedly confessed to the murder. Whether Rajkumar genuinely confessed or was coerced into doing so remains unknown. Ultimately, Rajkumar ended up in jail. A serial killer who kidnapped nearly 12 girls, subjected them to sexual assault, and eventually killed them. From 1995 to 1998, this man terrorized the entire state of India, Haryana, to such an extent that the police advised parents not to let their children go outside. He targeted girls aged 5 to 9. Due to his actions, he became known as the dangerous baby killer. The situation escalated so much that the police had to open fire during protests, resulting in 2 deaths. A serial killer named Satish Kumar, who lived in India from Ghaziabad to Bahadurgarh with his parents. They lived in a house in Bahadurgarh's Netaji Nagar. In 1998, when Satish Kumar was arrested, he was 25 years old. This implies that around 1995, when he committed his first crime, he was approximately 22 years old. A 7-year-old girl named Sheetal was sleeping outside her house with her uncle and grandmother. Sheetal's father was not at home, and her mother and 2 brothers were sleeping on the roof. At 3 a.m., Sheetal's mother woke up and noticed that Sheetal was missing. Despite searching everywhere, they couldn't find her. Satish Kumar had abducted this 7-year-old girl from right in front of her house. He took her to a field where he assaulted her and then killed her. This was Satish's second crime. Only 2 months later, on September 11th, 1995, he abducted a 6-year-old girl named Karuna using a pan. He assaulted and killed her as well. Karuna had gone to a shop to buy salt at 1 p.m., but she never returned. Her lifeless body was found in a field the next day, on September 12th. Everyone realized that they were dealing with a serial killer who was also a pedophile. The search for this serial killer continued, and one thing became clear. Rajkumar, the man they had put in jail, was innocent. Despite being in jail, he was still being linked to murders. Finally, 18 months after Rajkumar's arrest, he was released from jail on October 14, 1995. Approximately a month later, Satish struck again. This time, he targeted a 6-year-old girl named Johnny, who was with her uncle when she went missing around 2:30 p.m. They returned, but Joni didn't. When asked, Uncle explained that Joni was still with them. Otherwise, they would have left her outside the house where she was playing. Everyone got scared when they started looking for Joni. Again, Joni couldn't be found, and the next day, her lifeless body was discovered. This was the 4th child to experience such a fate. The anger among people grew, and they staged protests. The police were unable to do anything. It wasn't as if the killer was some mastermind who couldn't be caught. The local police superintendent was transferred after public outrage, and the police presence increased in the surrounding areas. They advised people to keep their children in their sight, especially girls. If possible, don't let them go out without reason. But locking children inside their homes wasn't a solution. Proper investigation was needed. In January, Satish kidnapped 2 girls. The first victim was Pinky, a 5-year-old girl who survived. After kidnapping Pinky, Satish killed her. But when Pinky's body was found, she was still breathing. There wasn't much specific information about Satish, so he escaped again. The second victim was Shweta, a 6-year-old girl. Shweta had gone out to play with her friends but didn't return home. Shweta's sister revealed that a man on a bicycle had taken Shweta away. The next day, Shweta's lifeless body was found. After these 2 kidnappings, people's anger escalated and protests erupted. The police investigation was ongoing, and they suspected that this serial killer might also be in Delhi. After all, Delhi was close to Bahadurgarh. The local police superintendent in Delhi also got involved in the investigation. Within a few days, the Delhi police arrested a man sitting at a roadside eatery. His name was Ram Babu, and his mental state wasn't stable. Ram Babu's interrogation was quite bizarre during the investigation. He kept laughing and casually confessed to killing a 70-year-old woman. He described how he murdered people and disposed of their bodies. The police were baffled, unsure whether Ram Babu was telling the truth or lying. His personality was strange. He sang vulgar songs all day long. If someone mentioned sex or a film actress in front of him, he would become embarrassed and start making inappropriate remarks. It seemed like he had a warped sense of humor and mental instability. Psychiatric analysis revealed that there was a slim chance he had actually killed anyone. Even when Ram Babu was in jail, Satish kidnapped 2 girls, Salma and Shanti. He sexually assaulted and killed them. Surprisingly, Ram Babu remained uninvolved in these murders. Despite being in jail, he continued to be a target. Another inmate hit him on the head with a stone, and Ram Babu died in jail on June 22, 1997. Satish struck again, kidnapping a 7-year-old girl named Manju. He sexually assaulted and killed her. On July 10th, the police arrested the wrong man for the 3rd time. This time, they apprehended Kumar, who allegedly confessed to killing Manju. But how this confession was extracted remains a mystery. Even after Kumar's arrest, a 9-year-old girl was kidnapped and found dead, making it the 3rd time the police had arrested the wrong person. Angry protests erupted, leading to violent clashes with the police. 2 people were killed during the chaos. The case was eventually handed over to the Crime Investigation Department, CID. The city was on edge, and the police presence increased. Despite this, Satish remained inactive for the next 11 months. After nearly a year, in November, he kidnapped a 6-year-old girl named Somani. She was returning home from her father's tea stall when Satish abducted her on a bicycle. He assaulted her twice and left her unconscious. Believing she was dead, he dumped her body in a nearby field. 2 days later, a passerby found Somani crying under a bridge. The man approached her and asked for her name and address. Somani remembered her name but couldn't recall her address. The man took her to a police station where officers immediately recognized her as a victim of the serial killer. Somani revealed that she had been kidnapped on a bicycle and assaulted by Satish. The man had dark skin and a slight beard. During the investigation, the police traced Satish to his workplace, a tin factory. After nearly 3 years of searching, they finally arrested him. Dr. Rajiv Gupta examined Satish for 13 days and concluded that he was not mentally ill. Following his arrest, Satish admitted to committing 14 crimes. He provided detailed confessions for all incidents, which matched the evidence. Although he later retracted his confession, the police had substantial evidence against him. A lie detection test was also conducted, confirming the consistency of his details. Despite calls for the death penalty, the Punjab and Haryana High Court sentenced him to life imprisonment. If you find this case interesting, please like, share, and comment below. In 1996, around 7:00 p.m. in the evening, a 17-year-old girl was walking home with her father in the town of Chitradurga, Karnataka. The sun had already set, and there was a complete silence around them. While they were walking, her father stopped at a shop to buy some items and told his daughter to keep walking ahead. As his daughter continued to walk alone in the quiet, she suddenly noticed a man approaching from the front, wearing a cap. The man was quickly moving towards her, and as he got closer, her heart started to race faster and faster. When he reached near her, he silently passed by without saying anything. However, moments later, the girl realized that the man in the cap had started following her. Her breathing became rapid, and she began to walk faster. But the man also started to approach her more quickly. Terrified, the girl began to run, but the man in the cap chased her and eventually caught her. He started saying to her, "Do you think you're very clever? Did you think you could escape from me?" Saying this, he pinned her down and began to choke her so she couldn't scream. But somehow the girl managed to knock off his cap and clearly saw his face, recognizing him well. At that moment, her father arrived at the scene. He picked up a stone and threw it at the man in the cap. Realizing this, the girl found new courage within herself. She grabbed a stone lying nearby and threw it at his face. After that, the man, fearing for his life, ran away. However, he had no idea whom he had crossed paths with because the girl, named Gita, was about to expose all his dark deeds. The man's name was Umesh Reddy. This wasn't Umesh Reddy's first crime. Before attempting this act, he had committed numerous atrocities against women which, if known, would shock everyone. Not only that, despite his heinous acts, he was never caught. And even when he was caught, he somehow managed to escape from their clutches. For your information, this man was a police officer himself. You could also call him a rogue cop. In today's video, we will talk about the serial killer Umesh Reddy. So let's start the horrifying crime story. In 1969, Umesh Reddy was born in the Chitradurga district of Karnataka. Umesh received his early education in the village itself. From a young age, Umesh was skilled in theft. He would steal crops from fields and goats grazing there, selling them overnight in another village. Additionally, he would steal stationery from his friends after they went to school. These activities became second nature to him. However, his actions did not remain hidden from the villagers for long. When they discovered that he was not only stealing their possessions but also their goats to sell elsewhere, Umesh realized that his misdeeds were known. Consequently, he fled the village and went to Jammu and Kashmir. There, he somehow managed to join the CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force. Upon joining, he was assigned as a guard at the commandant's house, where a senior CRPF officer's daughter lived. One day, when the officer's daughter was home alone, Umesh tried to take advantage of the situation and attempted to assault her. However, he was caught. Just as further action was about to be taken, he escaped from their grasp and fled straight to Karnataka. In September 1996, Umesh joined the District Armed Reserve. I don't know how he managed it. Maybe there weren't ID cards at the time. But nowadays, it would be impossible for someone to commit a crime in one state and then move to another without getting caught. At least, that's what I think. After joining the DR, Umesh Reddy began to show his true colors. About 2 months later, he targeted a woman named Divya. Umesh mostly hunted during the afternoon. One afternoon, Divya was on her way home and took a deserted path where no one would hear her screams. Seizing the opportunity, Umesh attacked her, forcibly stripped her of her clothes, and stole her jewelry, leaving her naked and fleeing the scene. Poor Divya, unable to save her dignity, neither screamed nor reported the incident after somehow making her way home. She didn't file a report or tell anyone about it. Meanwhile, Umesh Reddy continued to target women one after another in the same manner. He continued to prey on December 6, 1996, in an incident that terrorized the entire area. He committed a heinous crime against a 16-year-old girl named Pallavi. After assaulting her, he left her naked and lifeless, and this case sent shockwaves throughout Karnataka. When the police began investigating, they realized that the perpetrator was not different individuals, but the same person. Umesh Reddy had been stealing clothes and valuables from everyone after committing crimes, and this pattern was consistent across all cases. It became clear to the police that this was not a series of unrelated incidents, but the work of a serial killer. On January 22, 1996, during the Republic Day parade practice at Chitradurga, Gita, the same girl I mentioned earlier, recognized Umesh when he was in uniform. Her eyes widened in shock because she had already identified him after he attacked her. I hope this refreshes your memory. The person who attacked her and tried to force himself on her was none other than a uniformed thug. However, Gita had not told anyone about Umesh because she was very scared. When A is in uniform, who could she possibly tell? On the other hand, the police were investigating all the cases happening in that city. During the investigation, Gita told the police about Umesh and everything that happened to her that night. This led to Umesh Reddy's truth coming out. He was a monster. After this revelation, he was fired from his job and put behind bars. But the game didn't end there, guys, because at that time the police didn't have any solid evidence against Umesh Reddy. Just a witness, Gita, who had made allegations that led to his first imprisonment. There was no concrete evidence yet of his involvement in Pallavi's case. In 1997, when Umesh Reddy was being transferred from one jail to another, he escaped police custody. Within a few days of his escape, he assaulted and killed 3 girls in the same manner. From 1997 to 2000, The police caught Umesh Reddy about 5 or 6 times, but every time, he somehow managed to escape from their clutches. One particularly notable incident occurred when the police had Umesh Reddy chained up. He removed his pants and defecated on the police officers' feet, thinking that they would feel disgusted, get distracted by cleaning up, and he would use that moment to escape. However, this did not work, but every time he escaped from jail, he repeated the same crimes. Whenever the police raided his hideout, they would find a bundle, and that in the bundle, there were many female undergarments, and these were the undergarments of the women he either left after assaulting or murdered. On top of that, many women had accused him of stealing their undergarments because he enjoyed wearing them. He would wear them to sleep and also masturbate while wearing them. This behavior can be seen as a type of mental disorder that Umesh Reddy had. Moreover, Umesh Reddy treated his victims very cruelly. He tortured them and didn't just remove their jewelry but would yank it off brutally, like nose rings or earrings, tearing their flesh and causing them to scream in pain. He derived pleasure from their cries of agony. He did the same with Divya, although he did not kill her. He even bit her lips and left her like that. This indicates that Umesh Reddy was a very cruel type of serial killer. This cycle of his capture and subsequent escape continued for about 5 years. The administration was fed up with him committing the same crimes repeatedly. Let me tell you another thing. Whenever he committed a crime, he would leave the area, only returning once things had cooled down. In May 2002, Umesh Reddy got off at Kolkata railway station from somewhere else. After getting off the station, he went to a barber shop to get his hair and beard trimmed. At that moment, an auto driver recognized him because by then, he had been declared wanted and his posters were everywhere. The auto driver immediately called the police. The police arrived on the scene and finally managed to catch him. After this, he was never able to escape again, even though he tried his best to prove himself innocent in court after being caught. When that didn't work, he confessed to committing over 20 such crimes. These were just the ones he could remember at the time. There were countless others he had forgotten about. This means he had committed these acts with innumerable women. Some women he killed, and others he assaulted, stole their clothes and jewelry, and left them naked. Umesh Reddy did this because he believed that a woman without clothes would not raise an alarm, giving him time to escape comfortably. During that time, the fear of Umesh Reddy had spread so much, especially among women, that they were afraid to step outside their homes. They feared that he might attack them even while coming out of the bushes. Furthermore, Umesh Reddy started preying on lone women, even in broad daylight, when he saw them alone at home. But the surprising thing here was that the police had gathered evidence only on 9 cases. Based on this evidence, he was sentenced to death. However, as they continued to weigh legal arguments, whether he should be hanged or sentenced to life imprisonment, finally, from 2002 to 2022, and after several legal deliberations, the final verdict of life imprisonment was pronounced. So this was the story of the infamous serial killer, Umesh Reddy. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want. See you in the next video.
On February 4th, 2019, a Wednesday, a villager called the police to report a shocking discovery: a human foot found in the bushes of a small nearby forest. The foot seemed to belong to a boy around 12 or 13 years old. The police quickly arrived at the scene and took the foot into custody. Upon further investigation, they identified it as belonging to Mangesh Patil, a 12-year-old boy from a nearby village who'd been missing for 2 days. The discovery raised troubling questions. Who could have inflicted such horrific violence on young Mangesh Patil, and why? The incident sent a wave of fear throughout the village, with parents becoming increasingly protective, refusing to let their children play outside. At first, villagers speculated that the incident might be linked to black magic or witchcraft. However, when the real truth came to light, it shocked not just the villagers, but also Mangesh Patil's family. This case became one of the most sensitive and gripping stories of 2019, filled with elements of suspense, thriller, and drama. So let's delve into the beginning and uncover the dark truths hidden in this story. The reality is that this story begins in a small village called Chahadi in Yalgaon, Maharashtra, where a small poor family lived. The family consisted of 4 members: Ganesh Patil, his mother Gita Bai, and his father Dagdusheth, who worked as a laborer to provide for his family. It's important to note that some close relatives of theirs also lived in the same village. On February 2nd, 2019, a Saturday, Mangesh Patil got a half-day off from school. As a result, he returned home earlier than usual. Upon arriving, he told his mother that he was going outside to relieve himself. Now, as you might know, in rural areas, many people still go outside for such purposes, so Mangesh went outside as well. Meanwhile, his mother waited, thinking he would return soon to have his meal, as he had just come back from school. But the wait never ended. As time passed, his mother initially thought he might have gone to play with his friends and would return by evening. However, as the evening approached, there was still no sign of him. His father, who was also working as a laborer, they returned home as the sun was setting. But unfortunately, Mangesh Patil did not return. Mangesh's mother then told his father everything, explaining that Mangesh hadn't come back yet. The two of them began asking the neighbors, but no one knew anything about Mangesh, causing the entire village to become increasingly worried. As the investigation continued, the wait grew longer, but there was still no trace of Mangesh. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Mangesh Patil's father and the villagers decided to file a missing person report at the police station. The disappearance of a 12-year-old boy was not a trivial matter, so the police quickly took action and began their investigation. They first questioned the locals, but nothing significant was discovered, only that Mangesh had been seen on the afternoon of February 2nd. The police were puzzled, wondering where a 12-year-old boy could have gone. If he had been around 16 or 20 years old, they might have considered the possibility of him running away due to a romantic relationship, but that didn't seem likely in this case. The entire day and night of February 3rd passed in the investigation, and then the morning of February 4th began. On the other hand, Mangesh Patil's family, especially his mother, was in a terrible state, crying uncontrollably. His close relatives living in the same village tried to comfort her, assuring her that Mangesh would be found soon. The entire village was also deeply concerned about Mangesh, because he was a very sweet boy who participated in every bhajan and kirtan, devotional singing, held in the village. As February 4th unfolded, someone in a small forest near the village noticed a foot sticking out from the bushes. When the person approached, they were shocked to find that it was just a right foot with no body attached. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to belong to a 13-year-old boy. The locals began to suspect that it might be Mangesh's foot. They quickly informed the police, and the news reached Mangesh's family, worsening their already dire situation. His mother, who had been holding on to a small hope that Mangesh would return home soon, was devastated, as even that hope was shattered by this news. However, it was still difficult to say for certain whether the foot belonged to Mangesh, as there was no concrete evidence yet. It was possible that the foot could belong to someone else, so the police were now faced with the challenge of figuring out if this foot was indeed Mangesh's. It's possible that the other body parts might also be nearby, so the rest of the team began searching the area, and during this search they found the remaining body parts, although the head was missing. The condition of the body was very poor. Even so, Mangesh's family was called to the scene, and after identifying some clothing and marks on the body parts, Mangesh's family confirmed that it was indeed their son, Mangesh. At this point, it was clear that Mangesh had left this world, ending the search for him and beginning the search for the person responsible for this heinous act. However, the condition in which Mangesh was found suggested that the perpetrator might have been involved in black magic or occult practices. This theory was further supported because, at that time, after a gap of 27 years, Mauni Amavasya, a significant no-moon night, was at its peak, a time believed to be highly favorable for those who offer sacrifices to spirits and seek to enhance their powers. Now, how much truth there is in this belief, I'm not discussing that. I'm just sharing what people believed at that time. As I mentioned earlier, Mangesh was a very simple, devout boy. Looking at the case from another angle, one might consider that someone could have kidnapped Mangesh for ransom. But this was unlikely, because Mangesh came from a very poor family, and his family had no enemies who might commit such an act. Since there seemed to be no other angles, the villagers started associating the incident with black magic and witchcraft. On the other hand, the police were conducting their investigation with full sincerity, but unfortunately, they were not finding any clues or evidence to solve the case. As you know, CCTV cameras are rarely found in rural areas. However, by chance, there was a jeweler's shop in the village, and a CCTV camera was installed outside that shop. Before reviewing this footage, the police had also relied on their search dogs. They had first taken their well-trained dog to the crime scene, where they let it roam freely. The dog sniffed around and eventually stood outside the victim's house, Mangesh Patil's home. This confused both the police and the onlookers, as no one could understand what the dog was trying to indicate. The process was repeated, and again, the dog stood outside the same house. The police deduced that the dog was trying to indicate that this was the victim's home. The police then collected all the footage from the jeweler's shop dated February 2nd, hoping to find something useful. As they reviewed the footage, they noticed something strange. A beggar was seen wandering around the area for about an hour or two. What stood out was that the bundle the beggar was carrying appeared unusually heavy and suspicious. This raised the police's suspicion that Mangesh could be in that bundle. Although the beggar's face wasn't clearly visible in the footage, the police had a skilled artist create a sketch based on what they could see. They announced throughout the village that anyone who could provide information about this beggar would receive a substantial cash reward. Days passed, but the police made no progress in solving the case. The investigation team then gathered for a meeting to review what they had done and what they might have missed. They realized that the search dog had consistently indicated Mangesh's home, yet they had not thoroughly investigated the house or its surroundings. The police then decided to search Mangesh's home and the surrounding area, but unfortunately, they found nothing. They began to consider investigating the family members, who they were, what they did, and who visited their home. They questioned the villagers about the family's activities, and during this process, one person's name came up: Samadan Patil. It was mentioned that Samadan Patil frequently visited Mangesh's house. Without delay, the police summoned Samadan Patil for questioning. They asked him why he visited the house so often and what his relationship with the family was. Samadan responded that Mangesh's parents were his maternal uncle and aunt, so he visited them regularly. He argued that it was natural for him to visit their home frequently since they lived in the same village. This response didn't provide any new leads, but the police decided to keep an eye on Samadan Patil. After monitoring him, it became clear that Samadan Patil only visited his aunt's house during specific times. When his uncle is out of the house and his 2 children are at school, this behavior raises questions about why he does this. On the basis of suspicion, he is picked up and now interrogated with force. The police shoot an arrow in the air, and the arrow hits the right target. They tell Samadhan Patil that they have found out how and why he committed this act, meaning why he killed Mangesh Patil. It would be better if he tells the truth himself. Hearing this, Samadhan Patil gets very scared and reveals a bitter truth that will leave everyone stunned. Moving forward, Samadhan Patil tells a horrifying story involving 3 main people: himself, his friend Rajendra Patil, and Mangesh Patil's mother, Getabai. I know you might be shocked to hear this, and perhaps none of you guessed that his mother could be involved. Moving forward, he tells that he used to visit his uncle and mother's house normally. Initially, I mentioned that his relatives live in the same village, so keep that in mind. Keep in mind that his nephew also lived in the same village, so he used to visit his house regularly. Then he found out that his uncle often went to work, leaving his aunt alone at home, and the children went to school. So, his visits continued, and gradually, due to loneliness, they both forgot their main relationships and came so close that they started having an illicit relationship without even realizing it. One day, Samadhan Patil casually told his friend Rajendra Patil that he visits his uncle's house and enjoys with his aunt when she is alone. He explained it in such a way that it aroused a desire in Rajendra Patil's mind. He became restless and asked Samadhan Patil to arrange something for him too. Then Samadhan Patil talked to his aunt, saying that his friend also wanted to do the same with her, and asked if she had any objection. His aunt agreed, and now Rajendra Patil also started visiting Getabai's house, along with Samadhan Patil. Sometimes they went together, and sometimes separately. This continued for a long time, without anyone knowing, not even her husband. After a long time, on Saturday, February 2nd, 2019, Mangesh Patil got a half-day leave and came home. After that, he tells his mother that he is going to the toilet and leaves. Meanwhile, Rajendra Patil comes to his house. Now, who is Rajendra Patil? I think you might have forgotten, so let me tell you that he is Samadhan Patil's friend. You can understand why he came to his house. Then they both start their activity. However, Mangesh Patil's mother had forgotten that her son, Mangesh Patil, had returned from school and had gone outside to use the toilet. He could come back home at any time. She hadn't even locked the door properly. It was just ajar, and they got involved in their activity. Now Mangesh Patil also finishes using the toilet and comes back home. He opens the door from outside, and what he sees, you can understand. The poor boy couldn't even comprehend what was happening before Rajendra Patil, in a panic, picked up a stick lying nearby and hit him on the head, knocking him unconscious. Mangesh Patil was already finished. After stuffing him in a sack, his mother first calls Samadhan Patil, her nephew. He also comes and is told about the entire incident. They include him in their plan to finally get rid of the body. When it gets quite late, and the village atmosphere becomes a bit quiet, and with the winter setting in, when no one is around, the two of them, along with his mother, take the sack to a jungle area. There, with a sharp weapon, they cut the body into small pieces and scatter them around. After hearing this story, every villager was stunned that this was the same woman, the same mother, who was crying so much a few days ago over the loss of her child, acting so much. However, it was all just acting. So, friends, that was today's crime story. This incident teaches us that in today's world, you never know who might become your enemy and take your life. until the moment arrives. So, be careful. If you liked the video, please like it. And if you want to see more such videos, subscribe to the channel.